Hello and welcome to the Powerful Personal Brand Podcast. In this episode, my guest and I discuss the importance of your personal brand in sports marketing and brand partnership for athletes. So you definitely want to check it out. I am your host, Claire Bahn, and on today's episode, I am very excited to be joined by Richie Frieman. Richie has been called a modern-day Renaissance man due to a career that spans life as an author, illustrator, artist, etiquette expert, entrepreneur, screenwriter, cartoonist, and even a champion professional wrestler. He is a #1 best-selling and award-winning author and an illustrator of 7 books in multiple genres, with work being sold worldwide. Outside of the arts, Richie is the co-founder and CEO of Brand U Sports, an innovative sports marketing firm dedicated to connecting brands with NCAA student athletes through brand ambassador programs for the name, image, likeness sponsorships. Richie, thank you so much for being here. Wow. Is there something else on your list? I got to ask, is there something else that you haven't done that you're just kind of like, yeah, that's next?
Well, thank you very much for the kind intro. So, I don't know, it's Wednesday, so we'll see what happens the rest of the week. But I call myself a professional trier. So I've been very fortunate really just to try a lot of things that I've liked, and not always gone so pretty as I would have hoped, but that's just part of the hustle.
Well, I guess you could probably say you probably don't have a lot of regrets because you're like, oh, you know what, I tried it.
Well, no, look, regrets, it's like, failure and things like that. I was speaking to a high school earlier this week, and some of them was classroom with kids, and they were journalism and literature. And they asked me, like, what's one of the hardest parts about being a writer or being involved in this, entertainment-ish kind of world, but writing? And I said, well, I have to say the rejection's the hardest part. And it was harder in the beginning until I realized, it's still hard, but that's just a part of the game. It's never been perfect. Whatever you want to do, there's tons of rejection. So I've gotten a thick skin over the years. I don't want to say it doesn't still get to me and still stink, but, you got to wait a little bit longer to tap out. So it's I'm not too big on the quitting part.
Yeah. Well, I'm a former actress and model, so I used to kind of think of my job was actually going on auditions, because I would do like 4 to 5 a day. I live in Los Angeles, so it was just kind of like that was my job every day. Figure out where I'm going around in the city, and before that I was in New York, and yeah, that was my job, really, doing, perfecting my craft and doing that kind of stuff. So, obviously it's better than kind of going like, I constantly fail. You know what I mean? You're like, no, I did have a good audition, but one time I actually got a part. It was for Walmart, and the head of like the marketing department came in and he's like, did they ever tell you why you got the job? And I'm like, no. They're like, you walked in and you looked like the storyboard. You were the storyboard. No one else had a chance, because I walked in the door and I looked exactly like the pictures that they had. So sometimes it's not something that you did, especially when you're dealing with like arts and certain things like that. It's like literally like, it's just, I had an acting coach say that someone didn't get a job just because they came into the audition with red nail polish. Yeah. And that one of the people was like, I hate red nail polish. They're out.
Well, that's it too. It's when you're looking for like an agent, you're looking for a publisher. You also think like, as much as I feel like work I've put in, I'm very proud of, and I feel like, wow, this is really, I wish they would listen to me. I wish they would, or take my call or whatever it may be. But you realize there's how many tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of other people that were thinking the same thing, and they hit up every way. So I don't get taken as personal, but you're right. It just takes one person to think like, okay, you're the person I think can do this. And, in the times that I've heard the yeses, it's been obviously towards, I was able to hit a good nerve and be able to work on it, and they believed in what I was doing. And the times that they were no, you're right. There's 1,000 things that go into it. It's not just because, I've pitched agents before and our publishers that, the book was great. They liked the story, but they're like, look, I don't cover that topic. And I was like, all right, well, go talk to, the guy down the hall. Let's go get him involved, And they're never just like, look, I don't do that. I get paid to bring in these guys, this kind of genre, and that's my thing. And so I had to respect that and understand what they were going through. So it sucks. I mean, I'm not going to say it's pretty,
Yeah.
but it's a big part of whether you're any career, right? I mean, you're going to get
Yeah.
passed up for a job. You're going to get somebody dismissing you, and it's just part of the game.
I think it's interesting because I think a lot of times when we're talking about, obviously, about the arts and acting and books and all, kind of these things, but when you're putting yourself out there on social media, you're building your personal brand. Even some of the players that you work with, not everyone's going to resonate with everyone else. You're not going to like that person for whatever reason. Some people just, you're just kind of like, wow, you're so polarizing. But say you're not polarizing. Say somebody just doesn't click with you, and that's the way that it is. I think that's kind of a way to look at. I always talk about that, right? You kind of want your personal brand and the things that you're doing to magnetize and attract your ideal audience. So when you're connecting your, the players with a company, you must deal with the same exact thing. They're just kind of like, I don't know. I don't resonate. Do you work really hard to kind of say, I think this is a good fit? How does it work?
Absolutely. It's all the above. So what I do is, you can be the best athlete in the world, right? But your online presence may not be that great. There are college kids that are getting paid very well, and you look on their social media, and they have a lot of followers, but they've never done anything. They're just who they are. Like out the gate, they've been great since they were 12 years old, and they don't really need a lot of social media. And in a lot of the college kids' defense, the rules around what you could say on social media was a lot different a couple of years ago. So it's allowed them to be more themselves. You weren't allowed to show, if your school is Nike school, right? You can't be showing, oh wow, I love this Under Armour thing. And there's just rules about it, but that's your personal life. You're allowed to wear clothes outside of school. But when a brand comes to us, we say the questions are, obviously, what's the budget? That's going to tell what level of athlete we're going to find. What's the region? To make sure if they care about that, they have any sports involved that they like, and then we dial it back from there. But we look at them as the people we're presenting are A+ people across the board. They're not on there shouting something crazy. They're not trying to be funny and it comes off color. We've had people where we sent somebody and they were actually really funny. They were really good. And then about 5-6 posts down, and they were funny in the fact they weren't a comedian, but they just had a really good presence. They had a good personality. And then like 5 or 6 posts down, the brand said, look, we looked at this thing and in this one post, I just don't think it's going to be good. It doesn't really, it's a little bit maybe a little bit too, off base what we're trying to do. And I said, okay, well, look, let me go back. So I went back and I said, look, we have an opportunity, but you got to get rid of that post. And they said, and he's like, no, I like it. It's funny. I'm like, all right, I guess we can't work together. So, and it stinks, but we make sure that the brand are hired, the people that we're hiring, we vet them, we talk to them. We make sure that they not only match the brand, but also that the personality is something they can be proud to be with. And they may not be the biggest athlete in the world. They're not going to be the number one person in their field, but they still have a very good presence and they're a good person and they meet what the requirements are. So we look at it from a more holistic standpoint, not just like status of who they may be on the field or not.
Yeah. Well, that's an interesting, it's a different way of looking at something. So a business person building their personal brand versus someone that's a college athlete, but it really all boils down to the same most important thing, which is authenticity.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And you can't just nail it in. I've seen there's been some athletes that have very high presence and they were like, advertising, a water bottle, and they're just like, oh, this water bottle, I'm so thirsty. And it's like no character, no enthusiasm. And we teach them. We're like, look, this is how you hold a bottle. Don't cover the label with your fingers. Put it down here, make sure it's filled, show the logo, all that kind of stuff. And we give them that education with it as well, because you realize that they have not been in front of the camera in this aspect before. They've been watched and not had to present themselves. But it really does, it comes down to it. If it looks like they're just mailing it in, or if it's just one more notch on their belt that they can say they had a brand with, it doesn't benefit them or us, and or the brand, sorry. And so it's a deal breaker for everybody.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of times, because sometimes people will be like, "Oh, I'm gonna go, I'm gonna do videos from a standpoint of business people," and yeah, you have to like really, you have to work at it. You have to work at being good at it, because
Yeah.
people can tell if like you're saying phoning it in, or you're not, you want some other goal, like you're talking about. These athletes might want, yeah, I got this brand deal, I got these things, whereas like a business person might be saying, okay, I want this lead, I want this something or other. They can tell if you're
Yeah.
not in it. You really can see it in the eyes, and definitely, if they're doing the commercial, shooting the commercial, the director, everyone else is like, what is happening? And they can just say, you're out.
Yeah, and I mean, look, you're 100% right. And the most successful people in the NCAA regarding NIL are actually not the people you think are like maybe the top of their sport. I mean, Peyton Manning's nephew is coming. He's going to play for Texas in a year, right? He's got no social media presence whatsoever. No one's even heard him really talk that much. They're isolating and they're taking care of him. And I understand that. So I'm gonna give this guy a brand. He may or may not really be great with it. But the people who are doing really, really well are the ones that are embrace what they do and the brand. And I mean, there's a lacrosse player from Ohio State. He's not the number one lacrosse player in the country, but he's the number one most famous lacrosse player when it comes to an online presence. The number one most famous track runner right now. She's at Duke. She is very good on the camera. She's very personal. She's very honest and very funny, and she's great. And she's not ranked number one, but she's a great person. And one of the top football players is a lineman from Elon University, and the name escapes me, but I can tell you right now, Elon University is not exactly a top stellar football. They're not killing it in the football ranks.
My stepdaughter went there, so I'm like, I actually know where that is, but yeah, it's such a random place.
Elon is a fantastic university. I don't know how many, NFL people go there, but point being is that, and he's a lineman, and when it comes to football, it's usually the quarterback or the linebacker or something like that.
Yeah.
And he is doing very, very well, strictly because he is a good person, and he's outgoing. Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah, not every actor will make it, not all that kind of stuff. And it's just, but if you really think about it, I mean, I guess like I'm not the biggest sports person, but I definitely can see that the top people oftentimes are not the ones doing a lot of these sports commercials, because they don't have a great presence, or they're very awkward. They've only worked on this one area of their life, and everything else, is not fine tuned, or even kind of like, up to your basic level, right? They're just so like, it's like, you know what I'm saying? Like, they're so overly great at this sport that everything else, like holding a conversation, having a relationship, they can't do it. So I can see that.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's from different forms of entertainment. Look, sports is entertainment. And I mean, I was part of the sports entertainment world. I'll get to that for a second. But I mean, you're correct. If you are playing at the D1 level in the NCAA, which, by the way, we work with athletes from all different levels, AA, D1, D2, whatever. That's not really an issue. D1's the top. For the most part, you've been very, very good at your sport since you were 12 years old. If you are at the top of those schools at D1, you're probably the best person in your area for most of your time of your life. And then you take that even to another level, that other percentage of it, you pretty much had a very good run. Everybody loved you. You were told you were great. You were great. You got a lot of press. So why do you have to try very hard? Because that's just who you are. And I'm not faulting you by any means. I wish my life was a lot easier. So, no one really looked at me and said star all the time. But it does take that persona. And when you talk about entertainment, you can be the prettiest person, the best looking person in the world, but you may not go well with a person in a modeling situation. The brand might think like they might not want to work with you. When I was, you mentioned my life as a pro wrestler. I was a pro wrestler for over 10 years. And I mean, I'm 5'5" guy, from Baltimore. It's not exactly the hotbed for I don't fit the stereotype of what you think of a professional wrestler. But I also can't tell you how many guys I met that were 6'5", 6'6". They could bench press a truck, but they had the personality of a doorknob. And this is entertainment. This is not real fighting. So it doesn't matter how big and strong you are. If nobody wants to watch you or nobody really believes what you're doing, then you have no value. So it really comes by with what you're able to project and portray. And, you know, we are entertainment. You know, have to like what you're doing. If you don't, you got to get into it.
Yeah. Well, so it's such an interesting concept because I never really thought about kind of business people when they're doing, building their personal brand, but it's the same. It is entertainment.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you don't think of like a sports player a lot of times doesn't think I'm an entertainer. They're like, I play sports. But you're like, but at the end of the day, we need to fill those stands. Yes. So you have to give them good entertainment. So if you want followers on social media and all these kind of things, you have to somehow entertain. I think that's the one thing that a lot of people don't do. It's so funny because sometimes I do podcasts and I learn something. So Richie, you taught me something today. I never really think about the entertainment aspect of it, but it's so key.
Well, I mean, look at how many the top basketball players there are in the country, in the world, right? And there's only so many shoe contracts everybody's going to have. Well, so everybody might get a shoe contract, but how many commercials are they getting? How many billboards are they actually putting up? It's LeBron, it's Steph, it's some other guys. But there's a lot of people coming up every year, and they're getting contracts, but not getting that other push. And the guys that are getting the push are the ones that like to do it. I mean, like, look at Gronkowski. Gronk is hilarious, and he was fun. He stayed out of trouble. Okay, he drank on the boats and stuff like that, but he never got in trouble really bad. He was just a goofball guy that everybody loved. And how many tight ends do you see that are dominating billboards and TV and stuff like that? Not really many. He's the best one out there. So in his position, for so many years, he was the one because he embraced what he was doing. Now, you don't have to do that, but then you're also not going to get what comes with it. And when you already have the hard part down, right? If you are a model or an actor and you have a look that's really good, all you got to do is do the other part. That's a natural thing you're able to have. And if you're an athlete and you can throw the spiral 100 yards clean every time, being fun and outgoing, even for this smidgen of time, fake it to make it, is not going to hurt you.
Right.
So why not just embrace that other part and just learn how to do it?
If you go back kind of like decades, but Michael Jordan, he had personality and did really. I always think about. So I have a dog named Bo, and sometimes I think about Bo knows. Remember those commercials? Bo knows everything. Bo does everything. But he was he just knows. Yeah, he was just kind of, he had fun with it, and he wasn't. I mean, I don't remember him being the absolute best at everything, but it just was in multiple sports. Was he really, really good? I don't remember.
No, he was really good. I mean, he played baseball and football at the same time, and he was built like a machine, and no one ever seen a freak. He was a freak of nature. But if he was a jerk and nobody wanted to be around him, he would not have gotten good look. He would just be a really good guy that got through sports. But Bo was, like you said, Bo embraced what he was. Now, he was not the most charismatic on the camera, but he let that audience do it. He got the Bo knows thing, and he was happy with what he was. But I mean, you look at like Magic. You talking about like going back to the day, Magic Johnson. I mean, he was known for that smile, and win or lose, he was smiling, and he was great, and everybody loved him for it. So great. Yeah. Yes, he was good, but they liked him because they never seen somebody who was always so happy all the time, and like he was always like that's the person you want to be around. And I understand it's very hard for athletes to always be this person that people look up to them as. I mean, you see people don't want to do autographs, doing stuff like that, and that part kills me too. But I think there's certain parts of elevating your brand that if you don't really take into consideration the little steps you can do, I think it's the wrong. I think that then you shouldn't be upset if nothing comes your way.
Yeah, I used to work for SAP. I don't know if you've ever heard of SAP. They do a lot of sponsorships. We used to sponsor golfers, tennis players. We sponsored like Andy Roddick and Gary Player, and so I met a lot of them. Doing events and things like that. And sometimes some people that we sponsored would kind of have a tantrum. I'm like, I wasn't the one that would be like, your sponsorship deal's cut, but you're just kind of like, it's not that it can't, they want privacy, they want these things, but just like what you're saying, they can always give it to somebody else.
Yeah.
There's
And
always somebody else that can get that multi-million-dollar, multi-year deal. And all you do is you show up and you smile.
yeah, and I
That's
mean,
it.
you look at guys that get it taken away really quickly too, and gals. I mean, it's
Yeah.
both people. I mean, it happens a lot too. And I think the last maybe
Mm-hmm.
4 or 5 years, when people are the behavior they've done on social media or things they've done in public, and how quick things can get taken away. I think that is something more people are looking at in their own, and that's something that's coming to light too. But you're right. I mean, if you really are a jerk and you don't like people, but you realize that your career is part of it, then just suck it up and be a smiley person until that happens. But even with you look at this with, when you go back to the college kids, when they're getting part of the combine for the NFL, for example, you have to test. They give you a test of everything, but they also sit down and talk to you, and they peel back the onion. They're like, okay, back in 2020, you said blank, or you were caught doing blank, and the person's like, well, look, I grew up. Here's what I'm doing. Or the person be like, yeah, and I was right. So, I mean, this is who I am. And they're like, well, this is the person I got to go to when we're doing marketing events and charity stuff. This is the guy that I'm going to pick. There's another guy out there that can run just as fast. He might be a 0.055 second slower, but reality is, whether you're a company or a sport or an entity, you want the people that work for you that will be a champion for you when you need them to. And I don't think that's asking too much. I think that's the bare minimum.
It's such an interesting thing because, I really never really thought about the brand of each of these athletes and the ones that are super successful and the ones that are not. It's just your personal brand matters because a lot of people think, oh, my brand is, a logo, or is this, or I have a photo, I have a website, I have all these things, but it's with these athletes, it doesn't matter what your stats are. If you literally go into a room and everyone hates you, then no one's going to want to have you in their locker room. No one's going to want to pass the ball to you. They're just going to be like, he's an a-hole. I don't want to.
Look, and I've seen this a lot with, when I work in like entertainment and in writing and stuff like that too. I mean, look, writing is entertainment to me. I mean, you may a lot of people behind the scenes and stuff like that, but I've met people that are incredibly successul, and you would not even know who they were by looking at them because they're not a person out there doing it. Whereas I was like, look, where do you want me? When do you want me? I'm your guy. I mean, when my first book, I wrote and illustrated my children's books. And one of my best friends, name's Kenny, he was my wrestling tag team partner. And I said, look, we're coming up with a book. I said, I'm going to do I'm reading. We're going to invite all of our friends and family at a bookstore that hired me. I'm going to have can you do the puppet? I'm going to buy this turtle, and I have it in my office actually, but it might be back there somewhere. But and I said, look, and he goes, I've never done puppets before, but fine, I'll do it. So we set up a little puppet. We set up a little booth. He put his hand up there. I read the book. He read the turtle part for my book, Turple, and the kids loved it. So I could have sat there and just read like this, but I was like, this is my only chance. And I had never done a reading like that. It was the debut of the book. I didn't work a puppet, and he definitely was not a puppeteer. So, but it made a lot good, and we took it on the road. We went to a bunch of different places doing it. So it just added a little bit more, and I enjoyed doing it. And you have to do those things. I think
that's the key. Kind of, thinking outside of the box and stretching and just trying new things and being truly yourself. And that's kind of the thing. You can't make someone great. You can't make someone good on camera. You can't make someone be able to answer questions quickly or anything like that. But when someone is, they get, things just magnetize to them because they're like, wow, you are actually really great. Because there's some people that aren't. And I think that that's kind of the thing. And there are a lot of people that won't do it because they're afraid. Like you were saying, I've never done it before, but why not? It's just a lot of people are too afraid. They analyze things too much. They're perfectionists and all that kind of stuff. And the overriding thing that I'm hearing from you is the people that are getting these contracts and are moving ahead. Yes, they've got all the stats because they're where they need to be and all that. So everything being equal, the ones that are actually just themselves on social media already kind of built a presence because they're likable and they're not afraid to share. They're not kind of strange and awkward, but that's not everybody. So it's just, so the ones that are really good at it get all those contracts, and the ones that don't, maybe you just need to work really hard. Get rid of all your fears, because I bet it's a lot of fear that are holding people back.
I would say fear.
Would you say that's fear?
Oh, absolutely. Fear, ego. And I think when I look at fear, it's like fear of embarrassment or fear of, if I do this, who's going to really care? I mean, you look at a lot of people that are vlogging or have these huge TikTok, Instagram followings, and they do stuff where they're doing like a day in the life, or they're walking out their camera, and most of them are in their mind and thinking like, oh God, that person is like, what is that guy doing? They really think that person really thinks they're going to be some big famous person. And, you just got to not listen to that kind of stuff, because there's a good chance if you keep doing it, you will be. And then the person's like, oh, can I do something with you? I mean, and so that's a big part too. Once you put yourself out there, how is your audience going to react to it? I mean, there's people that we do deals with, and they're getting deals over quarterbacks, or they're getting deals over the star person who's ranked number 5 in the country, and this person's not even in the top 100. But they're getting deals from major brands because they're good. And if that person didn't want to do it, then you can't.
But they're good. But they probably have a fan base that actually is invested, likes them, trusts them,
for sure,
knows who they are because they've been around. So that know, like, and trust factor, that's what it is. So you might have this quarterback who's this, that, and the other thing, but this other person that, just kind of went out there, was goofy, did stupid stuff, not, but like, was just kind of like, I'm going to have fun. I'm going to entertain. This is fun. I have a platform. Why not have fun with it? And they have an audience that they built up. Yeah. Basically you say, whatever it is, Nike, Under Armour, whatever it is, you're like, their fan base is going to go, wow, they like that. I'm going to go check it out.
Well, it goes, I mean, the old thing with being a good athlete is, are they coachable? It doesn't matter how good they are, but are they coachable? Will they listen to me? When they get to college, they were the stud in high school, but will they listen to me and how I'm doing things here? When they get to the NFL or the MLB, will they listen to me when I have on my ideas now? And it doesn't always work out. That's where these guys fail, because they get to a system that they're like, this is what I'm used to, because everyone's sent around me. You have to be coachable. When you get to a job, you have to be able to be coachable. You have to work with that company motto. And, I look at this with the successful people we work with, are the ones that are saying, when I do my sessions about educating them on how to be a brand ambassador, or, how to hold the water bottle, or when you're taking a photo, make sure that, do it when there's enough lighting outside, or when I say, look, wear plain color clothes, like no logos, just plain. And some of them do it, and some of them are like, well, yeah, but I want to wear I got a shirt that has this. I'm like, that's not what we're asking for you. I'm saying, I know you like it, but you can't tell me you don't have a blue shirt somewhere in your closet. Just wear that. And like, I don't like this. And I said, this is not how this works. You're not.
It's not about you.
There. I mean, I'm literally asking for 10 minutes out of your day. I promise you. If you can do this, get your buddy to film you. You can knock this thing out. And then there was a situation we had. This person was very difficult. They were very hard to work with. They were hard to nail down. They were always busy. And by the way, if I get one more person that tells me they're busy in college and they can't use everything we do is on their phone. And I was busy in college too. I get their athletes, but this is your magical device for you send me content. That you have it on you 24/7. You can always go out and pour down a half hour of your time for what I'm paying you to do. And so I let them know that. It gets frustrating. Anyway, we were going around in circles with this one person. They just were not. They mailed it in. It was just not good. I said, look, here's what you can do. We got to do this. Just try this part, things like that. They came back and their photos were fantastic because they took the time. They had a friend of theirs take their photo, take a camera, do it for them, and they were doing it. And his photos were fantastic. And it worked out well. And on the flip side, it goes back to, the people that aren't the studs. We were doing a big deal with Dr. Scholl's. And look, Dr. Scholl's is a humongous brand. It's not the sexiest brand in the world, but it's a big brand. I mean, that's a big company, international company. So we were doing with UNC 8 players from the University of North Carolina football team. Huge ACC, great team, great people. So I said, well, look, I think I want to do something with some of the kickers too. They have 2 kickers and 2 punters. And the brand said, okay, we want the other players, but yeah, we can try that. Well, these guys were ones that we positioned secondary, and they knocked it out of the park. They're 4 guys. They had so much fun with it. They did like a funny video where they're like passing the can in the air or kicking the. I mean, I didn't ask them to do that. I just said, and it took them maybe a half hour, 45 minutes, and they crushed it. And I was like, wow,
Yeah.
these guys were fantastic. And everybody felt the same thing too.
This has been like a really fun podcast. I really think that this is going to help people that, whatever, if they want to, influencer, business people, but definitely if you're like in sports and you're kind of like, hey, I want to take it to the next level. You're like, yeah, just the same principles apply, but I think people need to be reminded that the same principles apply to really everything. Maybe you call it something different or whatever, you have to kind of package it a little differently, but it's always the same, being authentic and being yourself and not phoning it in, not having someone, going like, oh, I really don't want to do this because I really have this thing to do instead. Yeah. Someone's paying you a lot of money. Sit your freaking ass down or whatever it is and just do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just about taking opportunity that comes your way. Like I said, I've had a ton of failure and rejection in my life, but the opportunities I've been given and worked hard for, I don't let them down. And why would I try to fight so hard for something or somebody gives me an opportunity that's probably going to have a huge benefit in my life? What's my ROI in doing it versus not trying? So I think that's something that a lot of these, hopefully these athletes are realizing when they step forward too. It's just going to enhance their stock. I don't mean stock from a financial standpoint, but stock meaning just their presence and who they are. You're going to get a lot more opportunities come your way.
Richie, this has been such a great conversation, and I definitely learned a lot, and I know a lot of people are going to learn from this as well. So thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So where can people find out about you?
So you can visit us online at brandnewsports.com, BRANDU, the letter U, sports.com. You can follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Brand New Sports, and you can also follow me at Richie Frieman, RICHIEFRIEMAN on Instagram and Twitter.
Awesome. And all the links will be in the description box for everyone, so you can have access to it. So thank you so much, Richie. This is a lot of fun. Thank you again.
Great. Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
And thank you for listening and watching, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye.